Welcome back to the Media Architecture Biennale 2023 online day 2. This is our last batch of sessions. Welcome again, and we're excited for what's coming here today. We've got our second explorations and prototype session, as well as a second keynote of the day. But before that, let me introduce my new co-host here.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Let me say a few things about you first.
Okay, let's go for this.
Okay.
Let's see if this is true or false here.
Vincent Hui, Professor and Associate Chair of Experiential Learning and Cooperative Education in Architectural Science at Toronto Metropolitan University. He's also an Executive Committee member for the Media Architecture Biennale and has been really helpful in shaping the event. And I'll tell you a little bit about Vince's work. He's focused on advanced architectural computing and digital fabrication. And you've been supervising, helping to produce a work that will be on display. It is on display now, but for people coming to Toronto next week, they can check it out. Tell us a little bit about that.
So if any of you folks are coming down for the in-person event, I highly recommend that you come on down and see my students' project. It's named Eftihia, and it's at College Park. It's on, if you are coming down, you're going to see it in your nice pamphlets that we've provided for you. And it's basically a design produced by my third-year students, Ariel Cook and Yana, and they've been able to get a bunch of second years and first years to put this together, thanks in part to not only my colleagues in the workshop, I want to say thanks to them, and of course, certainly thanks to Strong Led and of course, Urban Visuals, who've been able to make this project happen. So I highly recommend you take a look at both in day and night, because you're going to see some amazing, fantastic work with, you'd imagine, just with plastic, recycled glass, and LEDs. So I highly recommend you come on down and take a look. And I think it's actually a really good preface to today's session right now that we're about to break into with the prototypes. So
for sure, yeah, because really it was about sort of exploring materials and their interplay with the LED strips that we got from Strong Led. And more than that, I wish I'd had more time to be more involved and see what they're doing, but I'll catch up with them next week and I'll get a chance to talk about their work, the students that worked on it. Yeah, let's talk about this explorations and prototype session. This time, this session is going to be moderated by Martin Tomitsch. He's one of the explorations and prototypes chairs, but he's a lot of other things. He's Director Australia of the Media Architecture Institute. He's the head of University of Technology Sydney's Transdisciplinary Innovation School and author of a number of publications on design, tech, and innovation, and more. So over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Dave, for the introduction, and good morning to everyone from here in Sydney in Australia. I'm joining you from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. So it's pretty early here, but good morning from here and good evening to other parts of the world. It's great to be moderating this session. This is a new track that we have added to the Media Architecture Biennale, the Explorations and Prototypes. It's a very exciting track, and it's, I think, reflecting a little bit the evolution of the field and creating a venue where we can showcase these new kinds of innovative prototypes and ways of using materials in media architecture and in urban environments. So we have some very exciting presentations in this session today. The way this is going to be working is that I will be, we have pre-recorded 5-minute talks for each of the submissions. I'll be introducing those, and then we will have a bit of a time for Q&A at the end of the session. So I encourage everyone who is attending online to use the Q&A function to ask any questions to the audience, to the speakers, please. And we'll have time to delve a bit deeper into some of the explorations and prototypes. So without further ado, we'll kick off with the first presentation. And so the first submission in this Explorations and Prototypes session, number 2, is called Longue Durée, Perceiving Heritage Through Media Architecture. And it's contributed by a number of people. We have 2 here for the Q&A later. So that's Kali Tzortzi, who is from the Department of Architecture at the University of Petros in Greece, and Fatah from UCL Bartlett. So I'll be sharing my screen and we'll have a chance to watch that talk now.
This short presentation by Kavishwar, University of Petros, in collaboration with Fatah, UCL, is dedicated to the initial explorations of museum, a 3-year research project which lies at the intersection of museology, architecture, and interaction design. As its title suggests, understanding museum architecture for digital experiences, the project aims to study through 3 cases the interaction between spatial layout and sensory environments, and the effects of this interaction on key dimensions of visitor experience. Here we present the first phase of this ongoing research, which focused on the design, implementation, and effects of a media architecture project in a heritage building, and specifically the Tower of the Winds at the foot of the Acropolis, Athens. The building, created 2,000 years ago as an astronomical and weather station, has a long history with different uses, including being a sacred place for different religions, a place of worship for Christians, and a place for prayer for Muslims. We developed a media projection with animations and graphics coupled with voice narration over a specially designed soundscape to reveal the monument's layers of history and communicate the cross-cultural encounters across time. The title of the media project, Longue, durée, a term introduced by the French historian Fernand Braudel, reflects the key concept for the digital content design of long duration, both in the sense that the monument has to do with thousands of years of history and in the sense of slowing down the time of reading and prolonging visitors' time of stay in the monument by attracting attention to meaningful details and heightening the sense of being physically present in it. The project was conceptualized so as to make the ancient monument more accessible intellectually to citizens and tourists alike and contribute to an embodied understanding and appreciation of the building's layers of history. The starting point of the design process was the idea that the primary means for explaining the monument is to let it reveal itself. A distinguished feature of the installation is a careful alignment of the projection on the material traces more or less visible on the physical fabric of the building, as for example, the traces of pigment of Egyptian blue on the surface of the ceiling, which suggests that it depicted a starry sky, the graffiti on the wall representing a Roman ship, and the physical remains of a mihrab niche, a prayer niche, carved in the wall, which are emphasized by the digital projection. The enclosed interior space of the monument, 12 by 8 meters, is characterized by a tension between accessibility and visibility. Visitors, maximum 10-15 people, can stand on a glass floor panel and scan with their eyes the walls, floor, and ceiling of this visually powerful space. The installation consisted mainly of 5 high-definition, high-brightness projectors and a 3D surround sound system. The audiovisual storytelling lasted for 6 minutes and repeated in a loop. The special affordances of the small-scale building in combination with the soundscape were used to create an immersive and all-developing sensory experience which compresses events that took place over centuries. Seeking to understand the media project experience from the point of view of visitors, we combined a research questionnaire, 200 were collected, and observations of behavior over a period of 7 hours on 2 consecutive days in September 2022. The site attracted diverse people, both locals and tourists, and various age groups. A common observed behavior was making sense, gesturing, pointing, and explaining to others, and other types of behavior, including dancing, mediated through the change in sound rhythms and music style. Early empirical findings showed that the media project generates not only a positive response, but also provokes an intelligent discussion of how it is designed and how it is working for visitors. Visitors' comments give insights into the interweaving of the intellectual and affective cognitive dimensions of the experience, and are striking for their language of immersion and the discursive expression of intense subjective feelings and emotions. Concluding, it is hoped that the project shows the potential of a heritage building itself to act through media architecture as a presentational object, to trigger a more inclusive way of tracing and experiencing the past, and in particular in this case, a functionally and spatially rich and diverse past. Not least importantly, our empirical study illuminated how a diverse audience perceives the interaction between physical and digital space and uses these to construct embodied and effective meanings. It could then be said that media architecture, by presenting the past as a field of experience, can be seen as a mode of mediation of the past and introduce visitors to new ways of seeing and experiencing a heritage site, a public space. Thank you.
That concludes our first presentation in this session. So again, please, if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A chat or take a note and ask them later during the Q&A. So again, at the end of the session, we'll have some time to talk to all of the authors here on this Zoom stage. And for anyone who's just joined us, my name is Martin Tomitsch. I'm one of the chairs of this Exploration and Prototypes track and moderating the session this morning here in Sydney and evening in Europe, and I think middle of the day or some other places, who knows, I'm losing track of those time zone differences. So we are moving on to the second presentation, and the second presentation in this session is titled GiveGetGive. And this is a work that was submitted and will be presented by Veenhof, who is an independent researcher and entrepreneur. I will now load the talk. And again, please keep note of any questions and submit them in the Q&A chat.
My name is Veenhof. I'm a long-time AR enthusiast. I've been exploring this medium since 2010. First on mobile, and nowadays I'm using a Snap Spectacles AR device. And I'm using it on the go. Wherever I go, I'm in a semi-digital reality, which I play with and explore. People have no clue what I'm doing, but that will change. In the future, I think more people will wear AR devices, and that could solve a sad situation we see these days so very often in public spaces. But these devices could connect us, bring us together, and not because we are standing at one point, some place somewhere in the city, looking at things around us, which is how we often use AR these days. But things are going to change. As said, first, this AR device, which means we are looking at our surroundings, and the people who are there, they're going to be part of this as well. We're going to see appearances like this. This is a filter I created. People around me are performing part of the Triadisches ballet. They're unaware of this, but I make them anonymous, so that shouldn't be a problem. Like this one too. These people are anonymous, and when I follow them around, I can collect coins. It's a game you can play. Of course, it's maybe not nice to do so. It's better to announce that you're pointing at people, and you can do more things like this one. This is a filter that gives somebody a virtual dance partner. But this also illustrates a problem. This dance, you're performing it with a virtual character you can't see. You have no clue what you're doing. So I was trying to find ways to solve that. So the dance partner was a bit too complicated. It's hard to explain what's happening. So I found a very basic, simple thing. This is an experiment called Grow Harvest. You direct somebody for half a minute to certain spots on a square where things grow, and then you need to direct them to places where they can harvest. But it was too basic, not much fun. So I thought, could this person be having more influence on what's happening? So for example, define what you're giving and getting.
Megaphone, watering can, guitar, watering can, guitar.
So what started is something you give to the person viewing the AR. I turned it around too.
Okay, yeah, wait. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, guitar. You have a guitar now?
Okay, have a guitar?
Yeah, great. It's the other way around. Oh, there's a canoe. Wait.
Do we have a canoe?
Yeah, now you have a canoe.
And popcorn?
The popcorn, and it's going to be in that hand.
So the AR person giving things to people, and then you have to explain what they need to do. They can play with it. It's fun, but still you're a bit clueless on what's happening. So the solution there, I found, is to have one lens and have it time synchronized. Just every minute of each hour there's a specific gift somewhere. If you have the same AR lens open, you see what you're getting because you know what you're giving, and that helps a lot. And this understanding of what is happening to you is important, because otherwise you feel strange if people are pointing at you and they're laughing. So to be part of this is it's important if these things are going to be used to bring people together in public spaces. And it's important that you can participate right away. And even the coin example that I showed previously, that was problematic at first when you're stalking people. It's fun when you do this with a group, if you know what's going on, and you see what's happening, so you know what to do in order to help other people, and you will collect the coins there. So these were some experiments I did in these steps show how to make AR in public spaces a true enabler of collective gatherings in which all participants play some kind of role and not just be spectators.
Thank you, Son, there for that great presentation. So I think both these first presentations illustrate really nicely the nature of this new track, explorations and prototypes, so really exploring new technologies in the media architecture setting and context. So again, if you have any questions for Son there, please put them into the Q&A function or take a note, and we'll have some time later in this session to go through any questions. So we're moving on to the third presentation in this track now. And the third presentation is titled Towards Evaluating Effects of Digital Sensory Environments on Human Emotions in the Wild. And there are 3 people that have contributed to this work, and we have 2 of them here today. So that's Busra Berber and Fatah, and they're both from the partlet at UCL. And we'll have a chance now to listen to their presentation.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation. I will present our pictorial towards evaluating effects of digital sensory environments on human emotions in the wild. This is a part of my ongoing PhD research at Bartlett School of Architecture based in London. In general, I'll introduce a framework and pilot case study. This presentation has 5 parts. First of all, I'll share the research aim, then I will continue respectively. Our research focuses on understanding the spatial and affective dimensions in media architectures. Despite their powerful impact on visitors, there is still too much to be explored and understood. We first started with this diagram by taking human in the main focus. Then we grounded on space and human-computer interaction literature. Based on the existing literature, we developed the framework to evaluate effects of these media architecture environments. The framework combines 3 domains: physical domain, perceptual, and affective domains. Physical domain focuses on spatial configuration and display, analyzing the architectural envelope and created atmosphere within it. Perceptual domain explores how visitors perceive the physical environment through 4 dimensions, based on atmospheric model by Forrest. Affective domain investigates emotional and behavioral responses. Now you can see our case study building, which is based in London, and it is an entertainment district with surrounded LED screens internally, and it is called the biggest digital space in Europe and largest LED screen in the world. Schedule for the video installation screenings. The proposed framework only focuses on the internal space with screen walls. The case study will follow the framework to explore experience in this context. First, physical domain, including layout, space dimensions, and space type analysis. The photographs and section drawings are used to document the space. We observe the experience in two spaces are affected by the space scale. The spatial dimension of the exhibition spaces can greatly impact visitor experiences. From the architectural research, space type concept refer to different types of ways that space being connected within the spatial configuration. We also applied visual depth analysis by marking a participant in the middle of the space and analyze the visual complexity of both space. As a part of the physical configuration of the space, display with its sub-dimensions will be documented in this section. These are vibrancy, order, and theatricality. This is hardware documentation for the exhibition space. Next, we will see perceptual domain. There are 4 factors of the perceived atmosphere based on the literature, and the section shows the eye level and the participant scale. We have conducted a questionnaire with 5 participants, and then we have used atmospheric dimensions factors in this questionnaire, and the result as it's shown. Affective domain is only for arousal and valence measurement with self-assessment tool in this case study, but it will continue with physiological measurements in the next. Behavioral difference can be also observed in the pictures taken during both exhibitions. While exhibition 1 shows lying participants, others are standing only. Main contribution of this pictorial, developing and testing the framework for evaluating effects of these spaces. 3 main outcomes from this study are: we identified the dimensions, proposed the framework, applied this framework. This was the end of my presentation. The challenge will continue with physiological data collection methods such as heart rate with recruited participants and developing data analysis system. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm happy to connect you on these channels.
Thank you very much, Busra, for this presentation, for presenting this exploration and prototype. And maybe I'll take a moment actually to talk a little bit more about this new track. So in the explorations and prototypes tracks, we had 2 kinds of submissions. So we were calling for short video submissions that demonstrated a new prototype or a technological exploration in an urban environment in a media architecture context. And the second category is what we call pictorials. So this presentation just now, for example, was one of our pictorial submissions. And the pictorial is a format that is used also in other academic conferences in the interaction design community. And it's a sort of a visual paper. So it's a visual way to describe a research project through both, by both having a body of text as well as a lot of rich visual materials that illustrate the research project. So it's a way to capture the more visual elements of research, which is a great format for this particular track. So this was our 3rd presentation in this track. I'd also like to welcome anyone who's joined us in the meantime in this session. So you're listening to the Explorations and Prototypes track at mab23. And my name is Tomitsch. I'm the moderator for this session and also one of the one of the chairs of the Explorations and Prototypes track. And we're now coming to the fourth presentation. And again, a reminder to please take notes of any questions and post them in the Q&A function. So the fourth presentation is titled Social Media Popular Place and its Media Architecture, Investigating Place Identity of Grant-Tang Mall through Online Reviews. This was also a pictorial submission. And I should maybe also say the pictorial submissions will be archived in the ACM proceedings of the Biennale, so they'll be available online later as well. And this pictorial is presented by Shuyu Zhang from TU Delft.
Hi everyone, LMAI on behalf of Shuyu from TU Delft. Today Elle will give you a short introduction of this topic. The social media, popular places and media architecture, investigating place identity of Grant-Tang Mall through online reviews. This research takes Grant-Tang Mall, a popular online pedestrian area in Xi'an, China, as a case study. As the one of the top 10 most popular tourist attractions on Chinese version of TikTok, Grant-Tang Mall has become one of China's exemplary pedestrian streets, utilizing the space along a nearly 2-kilometer-long pedestrian street to its fullest. Centered around Tang culture, scenic and cultural nodes are set up every few dozen meters, incorporating interactive experiential activities and utilizing colorful lighting to create a diverse range of media architecture, public spaces, and nighttime scenery. In the new media era, the proliferation of social media has led to the emergence of popular online places, which have impact on the place identity and media architecture of public spaces. So what will happen if a place achieves the status of internet celebrity? Also, social media popular places are considered an immense accumulation of spectacles. Everything that was directly lived has moved away into a representation. So, what are the Instagrammable features of a place and how they represent the place? The cyberspace is like the social media platforms, including text, images, and short videos, and how the cyberspace reflects to the physical space. Online media architecture refers to the geotagged posts of social media platforms. Offline media architecture refers to physical objects such as urban screens, media facades, and interactive multimedia installations in public spaces. There are interactive relationships between social media, human behavior, and places. To extract useful tourist experiences, we collected 1,124 Weibo, a popular Chinese social media platform similar to Twitter, check-in posts in February 2023 geotagged on Grant-Tang Mall. These online posts are located under the destination name, Grant-Tang Mall, representing the check-in posts people published while visiting the public space of the pedestrian street. Additionally, beyond extracting the textual content of the posts, we selectively extracted representative photos taken at the location. These photos, featuring various scenes and objects, can also reflect people's sense of place and place identity to a certain extent. For the large volume of text data, we first segmented all the comments, removed words without practical significance, labeled the remaining words, and finally generated a feature word table and feature word frequency. We selected the top 50 high-frequency words and conducted co-occurrence calculations to form a co-occurrence matrix table. The table was then subjected to correlation and network analysis. Based on the analysis results, the top 50 high-frequency words can be divided into 3 categories of related themes. Firstly, there are descriptions of the unique characteristics of the local attraction, such as hanfu, time travel, acrobatics, cuisine, performances, lights, night views, history, antique style, music, and commercialization. These words constitute the place identity of the destination and have certain uniqueness that sets it apart from other places. Secondly, there are descriptions of personal emotions towards the attraction, such as the most beautiful, reunited, really great, happy, lively, prosperous, good-looking, and so on. These words reflect people's sense of place towards the destination, which can be both positive and negative. Thirdly, there are other descriptive words related to location information, such as Xi'an, time, Weibo, photography, video, check-in, experience, and so on, which supplement the analysis. The analysis of photos in the Weibo post was conducted using Mask RCNN, which is a state-of-the-art convolutional neural network, CNN, for image segmentation. The proportion of these different features in the photos can reflect the typological characteristics of the local media architecture to some extent. The analysis results revealed that people, signage installations, furniture such as seats, and lamps were the most prominent features in the photos. Tourists showed high attention to these features, which also constituted important elements for popular photo spots. Examples include the performers in the people category, such as the acrobatic, not falling over girl, and the floating terracotta warriors, stone men, and Tang Dynasty female warrior patrols. In the media architecture and installations category, the Tang Dynasty hero figures, colorful signs, and poetic lights were also important features. The concept of place identity or sense of place is defined by three aspects: meaning, activity, and form. In the case of Grant-Tang Mall, the form of media architecture is predominantly reflected in offline media architecture. Place marketing or city branding relies on the creation of unique identities, which is achieved by using offline media architecture and traditional cultural activities as the basis of identity. Cultural space reproduction has become a new issue in the era of social media marketing. However, due to the marketing on social media platforms, the original space and the new popular space have formed spatial heterogeneity. Compared to ordinary places, social media popular places have a more complicated process of online and offline transformation. We found that the high-frequency words and themes in check-in posts to some extent represent the tourist's perception of the place identity of the region, and the textual themes overlap with the features captured in the local photos. Compared to purely physical offline media architecture, incorporating local traditional activities and cultural genes can enliven both offline and online media architecture, create the effect of social media popularity, and attract more people. This study also revealed the process of place marketing and cultural space reproduction. Our approach can be integrated into future research on semantic meaning in environmental psychology and behavioral science, and provide reference for data-supported urban design. This is the end of the presentation. Thanks for your listening and hope to discuss more later.
Thank you, Shuyu, for the presentation. So this concludes the fourth presentation in this session, where we have a series of 5 exploration and prototype presentations, followed by a Q&A at the end of the session. And so we are now moving swiftly on to the 5th presentation, the 5th and last presentation in this session, which I'll briefly introduce before we get to the presentation. So the final presentation here in the session is titled Integrating Interfaces into Furniture, New Paradigms for Ubiquitous Computing, Mixed Reality, and Telepresence within the Built Environment. And there are a number of authors actually that have contributed to this work, but we have Gonsher from Brown University here with us today, who will be joining us on the virtual stage for Q&A at the end of the session. But before that, let's listen to the talk.
We are excited to present our work, Integrating Interfaces into Furniture, New Paradigms for Ubiquitous Computing, Mixed Reality, and Telepresence within the Built Environment, on behalf of our co-authors. This work is done in collaboration between Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design. Hi, I'm Asad from Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design.
Hi, my name is Raysan and I'm from Rhode Island School of Design.
Hi, I'm Mung from Brown University.
Technology has revolutionized our ability to connect and collaborate. Video conferencing has allowed us to overcome physical barriers and join meetings from anywhere. However, remote participants often face disadvantages, leading to lower quality conversations and reduced inclusivity. To address these challenges, we have developed Janus screens, a new approach that provides a mixed reality pass-through window effect that allows users to overlay virtual content onto both sides of the screen. And using that, we explored ubiquitous computing, integrating computers into the physical spaces around us, and created the Janus table.
So the biggest selling point in our design is that our designs are able to show your colleagues in your space. In the hybrid meetings, remote employees can feel included, from the conversation. So our design is to let the on-site teammates to see the people on the screen as if they were sitting among them. The whole prototype is designed by Rusty and Brown team, and we embedded a camera inside the prototype so that it's a 360-degree camera. So no matter which direction you are sitting in, you are able to see the remote joiners sitting in your environment.
The Janus screen revolutionizes augmented reality with a simple, adaptable solution, eliminating visual deficits and the need for large spaces. It seamlessly merges virtual and physical realms, making it perfect for remote collaboration in the post-COVID era. In addition to the Janus table, other examples like pass-through windows enable safe interactions between individuals in different rooms. Telepresence robots offer remote control capabilities for engaging with people in physical spaces. Both these technologies have found applications in various sectors, such as healthcare, education, and business. The centerpiece of our design is the Janus table itself, with its striking circular shape symbolizing inclusivity and collaboration. At the core of our hardware solution are the Janus screens, aptly named after the Roman god known for his dual perspectives. The screens, which have two cameras integrated, rotate almost 360 degrees, allowing users to explore from every angle. Our intention was to facilitate a shared presence, ensuring that both sides can seamlessly interact and engage, thereby offering a versatile solution that caters to the diverse needs of individuals, from helping in setting up collaborative workspaces to accessibility needs of geriatric individuals.
Janus Table software is a web application developed using React and Twilio Video. Within this application, we leverage Twilio Video's JavaScript SDK to facilitate three distinct user identities: the front side of the screen, the back side of the screen, and the remote guest. During the video conference, frames from the guest video streams are continuously sent to the Selfie Segmentation API for segmentation. This API performs the task of separating the guest from their background, creating a segmentation mask. The Janus Table software features a user-friendly interface. Upon loading the website, users are greeted with the project logo and instructed to click anywhere to start. After clicking, users can choose between front, back, or remote guest buttons. These options present the local Janus screen sides and remote user's view. Once an option is selected, the user is assigned a corresponding identity which configures their view throughout the call on the back end and takes them to the video conferencing screen. We originally developed a real-time video segmentation prototype for two-person video conferencing using Aortic. However, when we scaled up to 3 or more users, we experienced significant lag in the video streams. Therefore, we also attempted to use a centralized server process image from all participants and return them to the respective users utilizing image ZMQ. However, this proved too slow for our purposes. So we ultimately used a reverse proxy server in front of a containerized application server to set up SSL certificates and secure connections under one domain name. Caddy was used as a reverse proxy server. This approach provided a simple and portable development environment, allowing us to spin up multiple iterations of web servers that had secure encrypted connections without handling certificate provisioning.
Our prototype demonstrates the integration of mixed reality directly into the physical environment, eliminating the need for carrying devices. By modifying the design of everyday objects like furniture, we enhance the sense of telepresence. This concept is being expanded with the development of mixed reality pass-through window, tailored for various situations and sizes. We're also working on a laptop version of the screen to further enhance the telepresence experience and enable new possibilities for collaboration and socialization. And with that, we would like to open the floor for questions.
Thank you to Ian and his colleagues for this presentation. And that indeed concludes the session and opens the floor for a discussion and a bit of a Q&A. But before we start that, I also wanted to acknowledge my co-chairs of this track. So this track, the Explorations and Prototypes track, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a new track at the Media Architecture Biennale, was chaired by myself together with Victor Perez-Amado from the Toronto Metropolitan University, Alexander Veenhof from LMU Munich, and Andrew Vandermoor from KU Leuven. And if you watched the previous online session, you might have met Alex there. He was moderating the first online session. And for anyone attending the in-person presentation in Toronto next week, you'll have a chance to meet Victor, who's going to be moderating that session. Just as a reminder also that this is a webinar. So to all of our online participants, we can't see you. You joining us from the other end, but we have now all the panelists, all the speakers on the panel on the virtual stage here. And to our online audience, you should be able to use the Q&A function if you want to ask any questions. You might also be able to send us a message directly in the Zoom chat. That depends a little bit on how this webinar is configured. And you might also be able to raise your hand, and then the MAB team in Toronto can put you on stage, even if you want to ask your question to our speakers directly. So there are various ways of how you can do that. But I'll kick us off with a bit of a discussion now. We have about 10-13 minutes time or so to go around with some questions. So I'll start with our first presentation this morning here in Sydney, I should say. So we had Kali and Ava presenting an exploration prototype. I thought there was a really interesting exploration of media architecture in a quite interesting urban space, given that it was looking at historical monuments. It was a really interesting way to engage audience members in a different experience and an augmented experience. So Kali and Ava, what was your biggest challenge implementing this project?
So Kali, you want to go?
You can start.
So only for clarification, are you asking about all components or predominantly the technical implementation?
Not whatever you perceive to be the biggest challenge. I'm sort of interested to hear the two, because sometimes we jump straight to the technical and sometimes it's a political or a social challenge. Or sometimes it's about getting people to engage. That can also be a challenge.
So I guess, Kali, maybe you can say something about it, the actual implementation. I guess I can say something about the general framing. As you mentioned, there are all these components, but most of the time these challenges don't appear at the same time. So initially you have potentially the concepts. Kali coming more from the museological dimension, and she's very interested in museums. And as now technology is entering museums in many manifestations over the years, and more you get more the media architecture or the immersive storytelling. It's a very interesting question about how do actually people engage with the main let's say mission of this museum, and that is communicating certain whether it's a story or there are objects and the information around it to the audiences. And now this medium offers very different way of doing that. And so there's a concept around it, but of course there's the implementation side. And then there's the actual engagement, which you think, oh, potentially people will engage in A, B, C ways. And then you realize, well, they actually engage some of it as we anticipated and some of it maybe slightly differently. And maybe Kali can say something, because I personally wasn't on site and Kali was on site, but that's the general framing around that.
One of the biggest challenges were the restrictions set by the F48, the ministry.
And so you talk about COVID, just to clarify, you're talking about COVID restrictions at the time?
Not only COVID restrictions, or have such a project in a heritage building is quite uncommon. A second challenge was the balance between the intellectual and the experiential, to balance the creative imagination and the scientific rigor, which is very important in archaeological sites.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really that's all really interesting to hear, and also it was very impressive that you managed to collect data. I think you had 200 questionnaires, so that's was it the scientific rigor that you're talking about in terms of actually not just putting something out there, but also collecting feedback from the audience that engages with the experience.
Yes, I also meant scientific rigor in terms of digital content. We had to study visual representations of the monument, sources, texts of travelers, and also there was another challenge to offer a different kind of experience from text. There are panels. It is a landmark in the city. However, people don't know about it. They are first-time visitors. They are not aware of the functions of the history of the building. So the challenge was to offer to enrich their perception and the reading of the monument. For them, it's an empty space, a dark space. So what we were offering were a completely different story.
Yeah, interesting. I'd be interested to hear more about the contributions of different people with different disciplinary backgrounds in this complex project. But I'll move on to one of the other presentations now, and we'll see whether we have time to come back for a bit more of an in-depth discussion. Thank you, Carly and Ava. Sonder, what a great project, and it sounds like it's a lifetime experiment for you to experience the world in a different way than anyone else. And sometimes people don't know that you're in this different space. So you're in the same space, but you have a different augmented experience, a digital layer that you can see that others can't see. I love that. And some good comments also around the issue of potentially stalking people that don't know they're being stalked. So raising some important ethical questions that I think are important to raise in this area of mixed reality. And what good timing as well with this presentation, given that Apple has just released their mixed reality device. So I guess I'd be interested, we don't have too much time have so many questions, but I'd be interested to see what was your experience sort of medical in the situations where you had other people sharing in this augmented reality experience? How do they usually engage with that? What is their response? I mean, we saw some of that in the video, but it'd be great to hear a bit more about it.
Yeah, that's definitely a key thing I'm after, because it's not so difficult to just present something and let them watch it, but to connect them together and to get them in the same, get them in sync, to have them all understand what they need to do and do it. That's difficult. They have a different speed of understanding things. So I'm really playing a lot with timing, thinking on how much explanation you need to give and how clear it needs to be. And it's still very basic, the things I'm trying, but still it helps me a lot to get that insight right. And for example, the final project I showed with the giving, it's almost foolproof. It just works. And there's also this annoying sound. So when you need to give something, everybody around you is also making that sound and that noise, so you know something is going on. So I've definitely made steps, I notice, and I was glad to now put it into some steps in this video explaining where this goes to.
Yeah, what a great contribution, and thank you again for the presentation. And I look forward to following your work because there's always a lot happening in this space. And again, I think these are really important and fundamental questions that you're exploring. We might have time to come back as well to you, but in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to Busra and Ava again. So another really interesting project, the largest LED screen in the world. I had missed it totally that it was installed in London. That must have happened during the pandemic when things happened and you weren't really aware of it. And really interesting research. So Busra, I understand this is contributing to your PhD research. So I'd be interested to hear, I'm not quite sure at what stage in your PhD you are, but I'd be interested to hear with the framework that you developed, which is quite thorough, like what are your plans in terms of next steps, and how could it be used by others in media architecture, researchers, practitioners, in education?
Thank you so much for your question, Martin. This is an initial part of my PhD research, and it is still ongoing. I first tried to set the dimensions of these new and media architecture environments, and what is the effects of them on human. So these three domains are that I am capturing all the variations in these groups. So next stage, actually, I start to explore it. Physiological data collection through heart rate and skin conductance, then analyze.
Oh, I think we've lost Busra. Everyone else still seems to be moving. Okay. We might have to come back to Busra. Maybe there's an internet issue. Ava, did you want to add anything before we jump to the next presentation?
Yeah, I think she's literally in the middle of prototyping ways to collect physiological data. One of the biggest challenges is most of the existing methods, they come from a more controlled environment. And this building, yes, it literally appeared last year. And it is so busy, and in the intersection of Oxford Street, if you know it, it's one of the busiest spots. And so all parameters are dynamic. So how you actually use existing methods from controlled environment and adapt them in a way and keep the rigor, however, make them suitable for dynamic environments. That's one of the biggest challenges. And I guess the methodological challenges will be one of the contributions of the PhD.
That's really great.
I see
Thank you.
Busra is back.
Hi,
But...
Busra, sorry, we lost you for a moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed my line, sorry. I think I completed my...
Yeah, Ava did a great job at completing your sentence. You were just talking about physiological measures, I think, and you were talking about using wearable devices. I think I do need to move us on to the next question, but maybe we might have time to come back to you. I should also encourage everyone on the panel to post any questions in the chat that you might have for each other. We have a few more minutes, so I'll move us on to Shuyu. Another great project, a really interesting way to connect the digital layer of a place with the physical space. So many interesting findings in there. What was the inspiration for that project, Shuyu? How did you come up with that idea?
Well, thanks for your question, Martin. I think the main interest for me is for the social media, because I'm quite interested in the social media's impact on city environment or people's behavior and also the place. So I think the difference between the other presentation for the media architecture, because they are very interactive in a very short time. But I think the impact of social media to a place will be a long time or longitudinal way to analyze. So maybe it's a difference between the online media, I call social media, and offline media, as for the other media architectures. So I'm quite interested in the relationship between those two. Yeah,
it's an interesting perspective to think about how social media use in a physical space over a long time shapes what happens in that space and how that changes the space. And I remember in the early days of media architecture, we're talking about how that sort of social component and how putting a traffic light as an example at an intersection changes the behavior of people in that space. But it's you can really see visibly it's there, it's a traffic light, and it obviously changes the flow of cars and people and traffic. Whereas social media is sort of invisible, and I think your project did a great job at visualizing that invisible interaction and linking it to the physical space. So it's a great pictorial, and encourage everyone to have a look at that. We might be kicked off this virtual stage in a moment. We did start a few minutes late, so I hope that Dave is giving us a few more minutes to also come to Ian and the final presentation. So another great project, Ian, and a very interesting and challenging challenging prototype. So what, and I love in that project, I love also the grounding in history and sort of the reference of this historical object and its beautiful design as well. And obviously we all spend so much time in Zoom meetings, so I think we could all see the future there a little bit happening in front of our eyes. What are the next steps for your group in terms of what's going to happen next? Are you going to commercialize this? Will we be able to use this in the future?
I will take this question on behalf of Ian. Right now, we wanted to test this prototype as a means to explore how we can do virtual reality on, in the physical world and using furniture and objects. And currently, we are using other objects, like we are trying to create this whole experience on a laptop screen. And then we are also thinking about putting this on some other objects. So on our next projects, we have built more of a, so we call this whole experience a Janus screen. So we're putting a lot of different people onto the same screen and creating like a virtual conference experience with everybody feeling interconnected with each other. So our next prototype, it's going to be embedded onto the laptop screen. And after that, we are going to explore with other like mobile phones and tablets.
Yeah, and also the reference to the window, which obviously is also a reference to Mark Weiser's original ubiquitous computing paper, where sort of this idea of you look out through the window and you can see all these digital traces. So yeah, it's a great project. And sorry, Asad, I didn't introduce you as one of the contributors of this project. You also from Brown University?
Yeah, I am from both Brown and RISD.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. And I see the moderators are back, so I think this is our cue to be kicked off the stage. But before I hand back, I wanted to thank all of the speakers and presenters for this fantastic submissions and contributions to this track. And I also encourage you to connect with each other. And as I mentioned earlier, the pictorials will be published in the ACM proceedings, so look out for those. And then you're also able to cite that work and reference that work, which is really important in the community. And the videos will, if they haven't already, be published on our MAB website. And with that, I'm going to hand us back over to the studio.
All right, thank you, Martin, and thank you to all of the presenters. Martin, you did all of my housekeeping duties for me by with that great moderation, talking about the publications and where they're going to end up eventually. So thank you so much for that. Martin has such experience, so many years being involved with the Biennale and the Media Architecture Institute. It's great to have you as part of this one, and amazing moderation. I just Vincent and I were just marveling at the way that you so seamlessly brought all the speakers into the conversation and moved from one to the other. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. It's still quite early here in Sydney, so I'm still waking up, but I'm glad it all made sense.
Yeah, you're doing quite well for 6 in the morning.
Yeah. I haven't had my coffee yet, so.
All right, so Vince, any thoughts about the session that we just had?
Well, I think the best part about the whole entire session was just the amount of accessibility and ubiquity that's coming about. Like, I know that everyone's familiar with the Pokemon Going of all the kind of mixed media and the accessibility of that, but to see the kind of seamlessness and the transition from the kind of esoteric realm of academia and research, and even just some of the kind of more nuanced things that may be a little bit more academic coming into the real world, and just being able to see it not only present in, say, heritage material, but all the way through to the kind of, I didn't realize, I'm Chinese, and I didn't realize it was like a Chinese Las Vegas out on the other side of the world there. But to see that kind of seamlessness with that, accessibility and ubiquity of the technology is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of, and that's, true to the name of this session, right? Explorations and prototypes, right? We're really seeing how some of these new practices and technologies are being incorporated into various sort of social practices, thinking about Saunders' work, and the ways that they can be sort of measured and evaluated, thinking about Busra's work as well. So it was really just kind of, for me, interesting to see some of those connections and the way that everyone was exploring them.
And you know, the most incredible thing to me is that, of course, a lot of us deal with architecture, and we know that the gestation period of architecture will take years before we see innovative ideas come into real manifest reality. And of course, even at that, it starts getting a little bit, let's say, watered down. But to see the kind of future prospects of what we're, like some of these prototypes, right? Like, I just can't wait to see that isn't going to be a matter of years. It's going to be a matter of months before we see some of this stuff gaining more traction and, again, ubiquity in common use.
Yeah. All right, we better move on to the next segment because Vince and I could just keep going here for a while. Thank you to Martin, to all the speakers from the Explorations and Prototype session. And I should mention, after the keynote that's just about to come up now, we've got a half-hour session blocked out for on Gather, our virtual meeting space where you can meet at the virtual bar and have a real chat with somebody from one of the sessions. So
a virtual drink, so just...
yeah. Don't spill it. Don't spill a real drink on your computer. Okay, so let's move on. I want to let's